What's up, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with SPY, Tesla, and the overall market. Just know that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Moomoo link. If you deposit $100, you're guaranteed 5 free stocks. If you deposit $1,000, you're guaranteed 15 in total, not to mention 8.1% APY on invested cash. The offer ends very soon, in just about 3 days from now. Anyways, now let's talk about the market. So, as far as the market goes, guys, I just want to mention that SPY has a very, very interesting structure. We have a double top leg structure that's developing, and we're going to be watching to see if this bearish divergence is about to pan out. Now, could the market pivot? Meaning, is the market about to see a switch in directions? We've been uptrending for the last couple of days. And if you look at this, the market's also on a much larger uptrend in terms of its trend so far. But the question is there going to be some kind of flip? So I'll talk about that. And I think that we're going to get the answer on Friday/next week. So I'll talk about that in just a second. Just know this. Today is Wednesday. We had all this data coming out for inflation, for the jobs numbers and GDP numbers. Everything was very close to expectations. The market pumped when this data was about to come out. And once it was out, the market started dipping a bit. That's completely normal, especially as we're approaching the weekend. Not really a big deal. However, just know there's nothing coming out for Thursday. Thursday is going to be tomorrow. It's going to be Thanksgiving. It's going to be a holiday. The banks are going to be closed alongside the New York Stock Exchange, the NASDAQ, and the bonds markets. There's going to be no day trading for tomorrow in the American markets, so please keep that in mind. The market will resume trading on Friday, November 29th for half a day, so don't forget about that. That's going to be very important. There's no earnings coming out for Thursday. Everything will be back at least on Friday, and then we'll see what happens from there. With that being said, there's not going to be trading tomorrow, but just know this: when we resume on Friday/next week during that period, right, we're going to be watching for a very, very big test on a SPY. So I want to mention to you all that we love to ride these EMAs, and I'm going to show you what I'm talking about right here. When you look at SPY, we like to bounce not too far from our 200 EMA here. Then there have been instances where we hit our 50 EMA and bounced. We hit the 50, we tried to bounce, we came back down towards our 200 EMA, then we rebounded only to see us, we dipped below our EMAs at one point only to get bought back up from them. So it just goes to show how important these EMAs tend to be as the price action tends to move around them. But the question is this going to be a double top on SPY? Well, to determine that, you have to see what the trend is telling us. So the trend was bearish right over here. SPY was at 600, came down into lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low. So it was bearish up until like November 19th. And that's when we got a trend switch. So in this case, we went from this low here, we came up, made a higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, and the list goes on. So you guys can see how the trend tends to shift like that. Well, in this case, I just want to mention that if I draw this out, I do anticipate we're going to try to rebound right over here on SPY. There's going to be a little rebound attempt right here. And then we're going to be watching, do we establish a lower high? If we break this high, we will remain bullish, and SPY will be breaking all-time highs. But if we hit this and we end up making a lower high, or if we fail to break it and we get some kind of rejection, that could be a sign that we're about to be looking for a pivot, and then the market may start to kind of downtrend just a little bit to see a little bit of a pullback before we attempt to push even higher later on, right? So there could be a little bit of a pullback coming. But this depends on this big test right over here. We came very close to our 200 EMA, so I think that we're going to try to rebound a little bit on Friday/early next week. And then we'll see if the high breaks. If we break this high, then we will just remain bullish and start pushing for like the 602, 605 area. If we reject and we don't make a higher high here, if we make a lower high, we start coming down, break this low, this could be a trend shift, and this could be a sign we're about to pivot. There are some signals that show we might pivot soon, especially off the bearish divergence, but there's no confirmation yet, so we're just going to have to wait and see. With that being said, anticipate a little bit of a push Friday/early next week, and then we'll see if the push lasts. Otherwise, we're just going to be looking for a rejection. If we make a lower high on SPY right here, then this will be coming back down. So I'll be watching that very closely going into Friday. ES is looking a little bit weaker. We're barely holding 6,012. That's going to be our 20 EMA. We do love to bounce off of this. Look at the last couple of days. We kind of hit this. We bounced, and now we're trying to bounce here. So there might be an attempt to rebound, but if we don't break this high now at 6,040, this could be a double top on ES. So we could attempt to rebound a bit. If we don't break that high, it could do something like this. So if you're bullish, you want to break the high like this and bounce off of this and just start pushing higher. That's like the more bullish case if we end up breaking past these highs. But the bearish case is very simple, where we attempt to get a rebound. We could even draw out a fib level just to see where these levels happen to be. We maybe come back to this imbalance. But if we don't exceed these highs, we start rejecting, we lose 6,011. I would be anticipating the 5980 area to be retested. And then we'll see what happens from there if we get a bigger move down before anything else. So there could be a small dip coming, especially as we approach December. We'll have to see about that if this is a double top, and that's why there's going to be a very, very big test at this support. So anticipate a bit of a rebound, and we'll see if we get a rejection or not at a lower high. That's going to help establish the trend direction. Nvidia is trying to rebound here. We're going to be retesting our 200 EMA at 135.8. I do expect Nvidia to push a little bit to test that. If we break through this and then reject, this could continue to downtrend lower. If we manage to get back above this, we're looking for 138 as our target. So if we close above 135.8 on Friday, this has potential to try to revisit 138. There is potential for Nvidia to try to bounce here, but we have to reclaim at least 135.8 for confirmation. And even if we do break through this, are we just going to continue to reject and start dipping lower because we are making lower highs right here? We'll have to see about that. But at the very least, I do anticipate a little bit of a push for Nvidia. Bitcoin is testing previous support becoming resistance. We could try to push for about this imbalance now, which could help MSTR. So we might be looking for this imbalance fill for about the 98,000 area, as long as we hold above 96,500 going into like Friday. So I see potential in this. For Tesla, it's looking a little bit weaker compared to the market. We had some negative news involving like the Chinese, not the Chinese sales, also the Californian tax credits, which are shifting. So if we lose our 50 EMA at 330, we're looking for a dip back down to fill this gap over here. If we break past 339, we're looking for a push back up. This is looking weaker with the bearish engulfing candlestick alongside this downtrend. So if 330 fails us, we're looking for that gap fill down there. There is potential for that to potentially end up panning out. NQ has a very, very similar setup. It might continue to dip right over here as well. I think it might rebound a bit on Friday. And then if we make a lower high, this could continue to dip. So you could take like a fib retracement chart and kind of draw it out like from here. That's going to be one area we could be looking at when it comes to our retracements. So it doesn't really matter. Even if we do get a small rebound for about the 20,900 area, do we reject to make a lower high here to start dipping lower, or do we break through this? So give this the time it needs. That's going to be very, very key for the way things are moving. For the QQQ, we're kind of flat right now. We could attempt to push higher though, looking for the 505 area, if not 508, which is where this imbalance is. So I think we could be pushing up a little higher. We'll see if we get a rejection, start dipping lower. We'll see about that. The same thing on SPY. Basically, we have this like bearish looking candlestick. Might attempt to rebound, but then if we make a lower high, this could reject. I also want to call out the fact that we are making a lower high compared to this high right here. And this sort of resembles a nice inverse cup and handle, which could lead to some downside. So I'm seeing some bearish looking metrics forming on the QQQ. If we get that rejection and lose 500, we're going to be at risk of coming down to 495 again. So we'll have to see about that. It might try to push Friday/early next week before it starts to dip lower. So keep that in mind. That's what the trend is suggesting. Apple, we're in an interesting place. We're trying to push hard. We could try to retest 236, but we're hitting this tough resistance between 236 and 237. If we don't hold above 236, we could start dipping back down for about 232. For a few more, I'm gonna go over just a couple more because the weekend is coming up. The IWM is looking a little bit weaker here. We're just consolidating. We could be ending up back down to about the 239 area if this ends up failing. So just keep that in mind. This might retest 239 before it tries to bounce. AMD is on a bit of a downtrend as well. It might try to push for 138, and we'll see if we get a rejection or not. So just keep that in mind. MSTR, same thing essentially. This is going to attempt to push with Bitcoin. I think it's going to be testing 396 to 400. If that breaks, we're looking for 420 as our target. We'll see if we reject off that or not. There are so far lower highs being made on this, but I do think it's going to push for the 400s, and we'll see if it gets a rejection or not. For coin, looks a little bit more bullish with Bitcoin. Could be looking for an attempt to get back to 320. As long as you don't lose 295, you favor a push higher. Amazon is once again looking decent. This could be like an inverse head and shoulders. We have to hold above 203. If we lose 203, we're looking for 200. And as long as we're above 203, this could attempt to push back up higher. So we're in an interesting place right here. If 203 fails us, we're bearish. If we break past 208, we're more bullish. Otherwise, this is just range bound, at least for the time being. So give this more time to develop. For Meta, we're on a bit of an uptrend right over here. We'll have to see if you hold above 564. If we hold above 564 and 567, we're looking for essentially 573. I think there's a good chance we do try to push a little higher, but then we'll see if we get a rejection, start dipping lower later on. If we lose 564, we dip lower. And as long as we are holding up here, I anticipate some more upside. I think we push a little bit higher for essentially 573. Then we'll see if we get a rejection later on. I do want to call out that Meta is making lower highs here. So we had a high here, came down, made a lower high, came down, made a lower high before we started to dip. We need to break past 576 to turn bullish. At the very least, I think 570 to 573 is going to be retested. And if we get that rejection, it will continue to dip. Hopefully that's as clear as possible. So break 576 and we're bullish. If we can't do that, we push a little bit higher to this imbalance, but then it starts rejecting to start dipping. I'll be watching that very closely. Microsoft is dipping right here. We're looking for a test of 419. If that does not hold, we're looking for essentially 415. We'll see if we bounce off that or not. But overall, I do see a little bit more downside coming. Google is completely stuck for the last 2 days. If it breaks 171, we're looking for 173. And if it loses 170, we're looking for 168. Otherwise, it's just completely range bound. So just keep that in mind. There's not really much going on with it. The VIX is also stuck at the support around this 14 area. If we hold this, we could attempt to rebound for 14.96. And if we lose this, we're going to be dipping lower. So watch support at 14 and see what we end up getting. The 10-year treasury yield is also on a bit of a dip right over here. This is dipping because of the fact that the Fed said that they are interested in cutting rates. And that's why we're seeing this reacting that way. The dollar is dipping a bit, but it's not really affecting the market as it typically does. So I'm not too worried about that. With that being said, guys, I thank you all so much for listening. The last one I'm going to go over is Palantir. I know people are interested in this one. It's doing a great job at holding up, trying to hold this support right over here at the 20 EMA. So this might attempt to push for 68 again as it looks more bullish. And overall, it's doing a good job. For the market, I do anticipate a small pump that's coming. But if we get the small pump on SPY, there's always that possibility we get a big rejection. So keep that in mind, guys. We could be making a lower high compared to the high that was there before. And if that ends up being the case, if we make a lower high compared to this high up here, that could be a sign this is going to start to pivot downwards. So just keep that in mind and make sure you watch those levels very closely. Anyways, I'm going to keep this video very short. Thank you all so much for listening. Please enjoy the weekend. Thanksgiving weekend is coming up, so enjoy it. And I'll see you guys very soon for a quick update for tomorrow. Thank you for listening and peace out.